Are you ready? No.
No.
Okay. That means we're ready, people. Okay. So here we are with a recap of last night.
Yes.
And for those of y'all that were at Bible study, you want to know how lunch went, right?
It happened.
So the good news is that we're still friends. That was not the surprise.
Please still love me.
That was not the surprise. We resolved, or not resolved, but we recognized that after last night and after lunch, Angela wrote it on a piece of paper.
At a red light.
At a red light. It really comes down to all of life, whether you're talking about your teenage years, college, early adult. We are wanting to be seen and heard and known
And valued.
and valued
And adored.
and adored. And so to be vulnerable in a healthy way means that we need to be seeking the Lord first.
Yes.
And we need to be dialoguing with Him regularly about everything in life that we're feeling or going through or experiencing, so that when that's healthy, then the two of us can sit down and have that healthy conversation, and therefore we're seen and we're heard and we're loved and valued in the right, healthy way.
And we don't look to each other to define our worth.
That's right. We can't do that. We have to be here telling Him all the things. Lord, I don't trust you here. I'm afraid here. Whatever. Whether you're talking about 30 years ago or you're talking about today, just having this very honest conversation with Him. And let Him, through His Word and His truth, remind you that He loves us exactly how we are, but because of who we are, because we're made in His image, and that's what He sees. And He's totally good with this sanctification, messy
He knows.
process.
He knows, and it's so important to be in the Word every day because we forget.
Yeah.
We are the healthiest, I would say, that we've ever been.
Right.
We are aware of our identity in Christ. We are in our Bibles. We are doing all those things better than we ever have. But every single day we still fight lies.
Yeah.
I was terrified at lunch to tell you things, and on the other side of it, Fran said, okay.
I mean, and honestly, she could have said anything and I could have said anything, and y'all know that. You know that the people you're supposed to be the closest with outside of Jesus, they're going to love you. They're going to want to be there for you and help you. Let me say this first, to understand you and then move through the difficulty of the day or the years or the whatever, because we've just shed light on deeper, complex issues, and that's what we're supposed to be doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And for those who weren't there last night, we talked a lot about just from a raw, vulnerable place.
We're at Union. The bells.
We love the bells.
It's 2:30, so just give it a minute.
Set your clocks.
Yes.
Accordingly.
On the half hour. Okay.
So for those who were not there last night, the chapter was on being vulnerable and getting real and how that's messy. And as the Lord would just be, I won't say kind enough. I don't know what He did. He just dropped us on our heads is how it, not really, but yeah. So we had this pretty little packaged lesson ready to go on Friday. And then on Monday night, Fran got spanked first, and then it carried over into, oh man.
Oh man.
Now I've got to do it too. We both were very abundantly made aware. It was so clear that we had to trash what we had planned and get real and get vulnerable before the ladies in the barn, and you all as a result. And it was so clear that there were places in our past that we know that we are forgiven. We know who we are in Christ. We know that it's under the blood, that there's no condemnation, there's no guilt. But when we just kind of gloss past that and say, okay, you forgave me, I'm forgiven, I'm redeemed, and then we just don't talk to the Lord about it. We don't sit in that place with Him and let Him into those dark corners. We have a very real enemy who is out to steal and kill and destroy us. And he will constantly remind us of things that are still in those corners. And if we've got his voice in our head,
Yeah.
and then he wants to isolate us and make us afraid and make us think that our friends would never love us if they knew certain things, or just all the junk. But when we just expose that to first to Jesus and then to somebody that we trust who's also walking closely with him, once we do that, once the light hits those dark places, they're exposed. That's where the healing begins, and everything. Yeah, that's where freedom comes.
Yeah. So we spent time just talking about around our tables that it's time to get honest with God. Mary and Martha were not happy that Jesus let their brother die, and they confronted him with it. And so there's our example.
We have a backup plan.
There's our example.
Hold on.
Hang on.
That was real.
There's our biblical example of what do you need to trust Jesus with today? Because it's something. It's something. Okay, then the second thing that we talked about was just stop trying to be impressive. Truly. Y'all, I'm not going to share what my table talked about, but I want to share, but I'm not going to.
So good.
Just be yourself. Quit trying to be someone else. This version of a life and a lifestyle that you think is good.
Trying to fit in.
Trying to fit in.
Who we think we're supposed to be to impress the neighbors.
And maybe if we start with being honest with God, then He will reveal to us, this is who you are, and this is the life that you are meant to have. Not this, and this, because that's not what He wants for us. And so...
And the transition is
Yeah.
not easy. We had several at our table who have been through that process, and it's very isolating and lonely initially when you're breaking away from your old friends and your old habits and your old lifestyle. When you recognize who God created you to be and where He is
Yeah.
calling you, that transition is hard.
Yeah.
And just give yourself grace and just get still and alone with Him in that
Yeah.
season, and I promise better things are ahead.
So whether it is, observing relationships up close, or you're observing relationships or people online through social media, we're going to have to fight that every day. And I know that we both struggle with what we would probably say is just wasting time scrolling. But I think it
Absolutely.
really is feeding something into our heart and our soul that makes us feel weak and less than.
And
Exhausted.
We're weary. We are just
Yeah, we're weary.
Drained from
And
it.
we talked about that weariness last night. And a lot of you all know Matthew 28 that says, Jesus says, come to me. Don't follow me, not in this particular context, but come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. My soul was weary. It's not today. My soul is not weary today, but my soul was weary yesterday. And in order to find that rest, we have to be vulnerable with Him, and we've got to be vulnerable with each other, because now I know I'm now wide open to have full dialogue with the Lord about everything that we talked about at lunch. And now I can authentically say to Angela down the road, where my struggles are and how I'm feeling or what I'm afraid of. And she can do the same to me, and we're going to be okay. There's just instant life built back into this soul because we've experienced rest today in that we do trust the Lord to work through each of us as we move our relationship a little bit deeper, a little bit further. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And I love what Amy Reagan said. I love everything she
Oh,
said. That was
God.
so good
Anybody
last
get
night.
that recorded?
We need that again. But confession is good for the soul. Not that we need to run around and spill our guts to everybody. Start with Jesus. Find a good Jesus-loving girlfriend that you trust, like we said already. But there is something about, we know that God is real, but I can look you in the face. And when I speak that to you, it freed me up in a way to go, you know what, I can now sit in this for a few hours with the Lord if that's what it takes.
Right.
It kind of started that conversation.
Right.
Which may be a little backwards. We should start
It's
with
raining.
It is raining. Hello. It's raining.
Okay. I don't know what else to say. We've said, this has been a lot, but it's a good place to start. So let's have the hard conversations, okay? Get under the covering of the Lord and each other and have the hard conversations. Okay, we sure do love y'all.
We love y'all.
Stay tuned. We'll post again before next week. Okay.